Cameroon Association. And please let us make it work. Thank you.
My name is I was born in Chico. Originally, my parents are from Bakusa. But what I've said, my best friend, my real best friend is a Bayangi and is a Bakure. I've gone to their village. All my life I spent in Chico. I went to GDC Ombo. What I'm trying to say is, when I was growing up in Chico, there was Igbo, Bayangi, Basa, that we grew up together. I didn't see any disunity. Maybe it's happening now, but when I left Cameroon about 12 years ago, I didn't see that. Maybe now it's there. My point is, people work together, like I'm an engineer, we have an association trying to have Cameroon. Next week, they will hold a Chico meeting in my house. We are trying to see what we do to Chico. Where I used to work in SNEC at Douala. I was transferred in Muyuka. People call me the Chico United because I believe only in Chico. If you go and ask them, they know my parents are from Bamleke. But that Supreme Bank was owned by Bamleke people. But all those people working there, they will call me Chico United because I even go to places and recruit players for them. In Chico, when I heard Pa was saying about a parliamentarian, a Basama, I know that man. Paul Bamleke is a Bamleke man, but they voted for him in Chico as a mayor. Because he was doing more for Chico than Luma. He was running with Pa Luma, who is in Chico there now, a Bakure man. But he has been living for Chico all his life. But they voted for him. Because he has been there. I'm thinking if I go back, I'll go back to Chico. So my point is, let's just be, unity. Wait, I'm holding a meeting next week because we're trying to smoke for Chico. Not for Western Cameroon. I was growing up in Chico, like West Cameroon, East Cameroon. The problem is like Anglophones live in unity like Mr. Mbu said. My best friends are, Bakure, Bayangi. I don't have friends of Bamleke to play. I don't have them. So it's true. When I go before, I told them my parents call me, he's from English side. My grandparents. It's English. So let's just live, like family. That's all.
Yeah, my name is Felix Anoma. I would like to direct my question to Kenneth there. We talk a lot about your group, Amakam, right? Nice organization. I'm sure you guys have a lot of good goals, but if I give you a house full of books, medical equipment, and all that, how are you going to get that to Cameroon? How are you going to make sure that it gets to Cameroon? Can you tell me the resources out there? I know libraries that will put books out there for people to take or medical equipment. How can you guarantee that that stuff gets to Cameroon? What resources do you have at your disposal? No, so basically, please.
Well, right now we're in the formative stages of Amaka. And you see, when this association is eventually formed, there's a lot of Cameroonians out there with a lot of resources. Some, like this guy, Bo, specializes in shipping equipment back home. So when the association is eventually formed, we can have relationships with even Camship, and so on and so forth. But as of right now, unless we identify individual resources, we can do that. But the association is in its formative stage.
But just to follow up, I'd like to know how you guys progress because I'm sure a lot of groups share the same concern I do. You have these things, but there's no way you can send them to Cameroon.
I have a handout here.
please, about some number of hours that I've been here, I'm a bit disappointed. And I feel that I should air my view before going back home. I came here because I heard that there was a Northwest, Southwest dialogue. And as an Anglophone, I'm English-speaking Cameroonian, and as a Northwesterner too, I decided that I should be a part of this meeting. Unfortunately for me, it turned out to be a political meeting because all along I have only been hearing about SDF, CPDF, all those things, and ministers, ambassadors, and those things. I don't think that that is the reason why I came here. And just being fresh from Cameroon, I know that Northwest, Southwest, English-speaking Cameroon has a problem. And the problem is the decayed nature of that particular region. So I was expecting that my honorable gentlemen that I met here, and so many who have been here for so many years, and who have not even gotten an agenda of going back to Cameroon any sooner, will be telling us of how today, if we as Northwesterners and Southwesterners, English-speaking Cameroonians, come together as brothers and sisters, we'll be able to take ourselves out of the present predicament. It's not everybody who is opportune to come to America. Majority of us, the Northwesterners and Southwesterners, are living back home. And they will want to at least look on us who are here to get something positive from here, to be able to know what to do. Okay, now, if today we decide that we have, yes, accepted ourselves, that we are together, we'll talk to each other. My Mr. Ande has just presented Amakam, and say, okay, yes, because we are now together, we'll go to Amakam and patronize them. What becomes the fate of that very region, the Northwest and the Southwest? That is the major problem today. So please, I feel that instead of talking about Amakam is not a Northwest aspiration, or neither is it a Southwest aspiration. It is a Cameroonian aspiration. Yes, we are. Northwest and Southwest is not Cameroon. It is part of Cameroon. So when we come, please, I was believing that we will concentrate on our Northwest and Southwest issues, then iron them out before we go ahead talking about whether who was ambassador or minister, whether how SDF took over, whether how CPDF took over. Thank you very much.
Okay, Dr. Stephen Dose is going to respond first to you. But one thing I want to say to you is that this foundation that is creating this thing, that is called this meeting, it's not a partisan organization. That we do engage in political issues, like meetings that we call, we don't shy away from politics. And if you look at this agenda, we have broadcasted this thing for a long time all over the world on the internet. People at home in Cameroon have it. The name of SDF as a political party is mentioned on this agenda. So it's not something that we hide. We want to see also, I think it's okay for us to examine what political parties have done to the Northwest Southwest issue. So if you're disappointed, that is fine. That's your perception. We really want to try to get everybody who comes here to be satisfied. But sometimes it's difficult, and even it might not even make sense for us to go all out to try to satisfy everybody. But I know we have been talking. I'll find time to still convince you if what the other people would respond to you is not relevant. But I would not like to see you run away from the things that we organize in future just because we are disappointed today?
No, I can't run away.
I just wanted to say, sir, what was your name again?
Jambet Michael.
Jambe Michael. I think I respect you. And I respect what you said, because the first thing that struck me when we came back from break was the empty seats. And I am gratified that you were disappointed that you stayed. And that's a good step. And I just hope that you hang around, because it is fair to conclude that all of us living here will not be completely satisfied. And that was not the objective. The objective was to get something started. And we can work incrementally to build on it. And to take in points of view just like this. And then we'll get somewhere. A journey like Bahande put this guy who was climbing Mount Plateau started to extend.
I would like to say that we are here. Presented by Kenneth is good, and I am not an apostle of doom, but if history is a guide, we would like to say here that we should take a retrospective view of all the organizations that we've had, be they regional, national, and see why they work and or why they did not work. And know the population, the context in which we are working to ensure the success of Amaka. And one of the things I would like to tell you straight away is that if you are not interested in my business, I will not be interested in your business. What do I mean? I mean that there are socio-cultural groups in this place, be them by Manu, Bandi, Wundo, Basa. If anybody wants to succeed in this place, we have to start with what we have and then move into what we want to be. Therefore, my advice is get in touch with those leaders, get them together, and through them get to their people. Because you will not, you will excuse me, but I wouldn't mind. It's my business that when the ICA boycotted elections in '92 or something like that, and there was ghost town in Cameroon. Then one Bamileke man came and told the grandmother that please go and vote for the election. Then the man said, the chairman don't talk. That is to say, for her, she was wanting to hear what the leader in whom she believed had said. In other words, if you came to a woman or a Bali man that come and join Amaka, he will ask the Bali leader, should I go or should I not go? So pass through them and see how with them you can get the rest of the people. But I believe also that if you have been listening to the internet, I say that if anybody dies in America here, don't come to me for money. I will not give. But why don't we buy collective insurance, which is only maybe $1 per person per year? And we're not going to die all in 1 year. And when the occasion comes, we pass the burden to the insurance company to carry the cost to go and bury in Cameroon, that every day, in 1 year, we may contribute $100 because this man will die here, we'll go and give 10. This man will die here, we'll go and give 10. In other words, there is absolute necessity that there be a Cameroonian organization in this place. Right.
go forward, there will be groups that will come up that will give some proposals, some suggestions on how, which is, I believe, I won't preempt Dr. Anderson, but my presentation will be non-political. And we'll try to come up with solutions that we can do from this end to help those back home, and how we can equally do what we can do at this end to help ourselves here. So we're halfway there, we're not yet the finish line. So if you can just hang on, till the end, I'm sure by the time you leave here, some of your questions will be satisfied. And if your questions are not answered, please grab me at the end and say, this question was not answered. I'll make every effort to make sure you get satisfied. Okay.
You have a question?
It started last year in August, and we sent out invitations on the internet. We sent individual invitations. We contacted cultural groups, we contacted alumni associations, and we held a session at the US Congress, and that's where it was organized.
I'm sure there's a lot more.
Right, and that is all part of the sensitization campaign that we're doing.
Okay, 1 minute.
Okay. I am one man who believes in the cause of housing. You ask me why. So we started the reunification process. As time goes, we went on, I discovered that all the resources that we had failed. And the way we were treated showed a lot of neglect. And this program with this gentleman is putting up, you'll be surprised if you want to extend your business. The day you load a ship of cargo or anything or books or whatever, equipment to go and establish business, the custom duty that you charge, because you are going to southwest or northwest to be at, it will be more than the cost of the business. And then you force it all out. There is a problem. There are many things people want to do. But because of this political difference, with the custom officer who is in Douala, Mr. Francophone, will not allow anything for development in southwest or northwest to exist. That person will impose taxes and hurt the whole thing and kill the whole idea. And even if you manage to get there, the taxes will continue to be there. And you will get the police officer everywhere as you cross the border. Everywhere. And you have to give $20, 5,000, 10,000 before you can move to the next mile. It's a problem.
Thank you, Mr.
That is what we want to solve here now. If you don't solve that here, there's just no way.
Let me say that Mr. Pomia is the president of the Southern Cameroon's Restoration Movement. And I do like the gentlemanliness because Mr. Pomia is a man who comes and listens to other people and puts his point across. And this is what we are trying to do. Several times, the last meeting we had here with the ambassador, the first time we brought him out with the Cameroonian community, we invited everybody, and there was a member of Mr. Pomia's group who was able to read and really hand over a memo directly to a high-ranking member of the government. I was a member of this group from Cameroon. We never had such an opportunity to talk directly with the people whom we want to face with our grievances. So it's a very good thing, Mr. Pomia, to be civilized. And this is the message you should take to members of the group. Whether we are looking for independence or what, we should be civilized in the way we go about it so that we teach our people too. Because even when we get that independence and we promote chaos and intolerance, that's what is going to come and bite us in our independence Southern Cameroon tomorrow. So I just want to make that point.
Well, just to address the point Mr. Pomia made, and then the other issues about shipping stuff to Cameroon. I know there are organizations. I belong to the Manufacturer Association, and we have shipped stuff to Cameroon. That's mattresses,
beds, hospital beds, bedspreads, medication and stuff. And it was hard-earned money. We collected this stuff from here and shipped it to Cameroon to be distributed, to give distributed to the general hospital in Mali. And this thing got to the port. And it got stuck there. We explained to them that this is non-profit stuff. We're not going to sell it. It's often inspected. We're donating it to the hospital. And they threw roadblocks until this thing could not be retrieved. Could not be retrieved. Until finally, we're lucky that we have the general from our village. That General Kato had to go intervene to get these things, to get the military truck to carry the stuff from Douala to this one. So those are some of the roadblocks that we face. Even though we don't point fingers at the government and stuff, but I think that if an association as Amakan is formed and we have direct links, direct connections with people in representations in Cameroon, it will make things easier, because if we have representation in Cameroon, it might not be in the government, that is, the government recognizes the association. It will be easier for us to ship stuff, because there's a lot of stuff that is around here. People are looking in warehouses, people are looking for them to, in fact, the warehouses want to dump them, they don't have a place to dump them. So we have an avenue that we can use to satisfy our own needs back home. So I think such an organization will serve that purpose, because I think it will be recognized by the government or by the authorities over there, so that those bottlenecks that exist, I'm not saying that those bottlenecks were created by the government. We always blame the government. The bottom line is individual. The government is not made of the president or whoever. The government is made of you and I, individuals. Those guys who stand on the road and ask you for bribe, it's not the president who sends them to go ask for bribe. They are your brothers and your sisters and everybody. So they keep on pointing fingers at the government. But I think it's an educational process until we educate ourselves, educate our people, to make them understand that the government, they are the government. Those gendarmes are still working for them. So if that problem is resolved, these bottlenecks will be taken care of.
Thank you. Normally, one of the advantages we have today is that one of our guests is the ambassador, and these are things that are directed to the government. In one way or another, the government can take care of those things and help Anakam and many of our goods too, for that southern Cameroons or northwest, southwest, when they're trying to do their things that their rights are respected and other things. So the ambassador himself seemed to have volunteered to put up his hand. He has something to say.
Yes. I reserve my remarks on the at the later stage.
Okay.
I just want to respond to clarify this matter of sending or anything. I think, as in many of the problems that we have now, sometimes it's just that not doing things the way they ought to be done that we face problems. And usually, if we are in good faith, when you get the explanation of how things are done this way rather than the other way, you will even commend your government. You realize that your brothers and sisters who are sitting behind the government desks are not necessarily all that corrupt or that ignorant. They have a clearer picture than you have, and they have to sometimes act according to more general concerns than the one that you have. Specifically, on sending equipment to come, whatever it is not for the person sending whatever to Cameroon go to customs and get it out. You are sending it to whom? Whoever is the destiny knows how to get about getting that out. If they do not know, they have advisors locally who will help them. If it is a hospital, there are customs regulations. If it is a school, if it is a business, it all depends on the organization or the individual to whom you are sending what. If you, because you know you're acting in good faith and as for philanthropy, you are sending something, you must realize that there will be others who may, we know ourselves, who may pretend to do the same thing, and they're just taking them for business. Now, how do you want the government to be able to differentiate between who is genuine and who is not? So, I want to send it to hospital X or Y. Send it to the hospital. Tell the hospital. The person, the responsible people at the hospital will go, file documents, and they will receive it. Now, if it is subject to custom payment, they will be told what to pay. If it is not, they will receive it. Is it a school? Is it a public hospital? Is it a private practitioner to whom you are sending medicine which is not for free distribution but for sale? So these are the little things that are very simple, and you'll end up realizing that the people who are sitting there making those regulations are just at least as intelligent and as patriotic as you are. So we need to learn more, to seek information. And the embassy, for instance, starts here to help whenever we can. If you want to send something, you come to us, we will advise you. Don't ask us to give you a certificate so that you will go through the customs. That is not what we can do. Except, of course, if you are completing your studies and you have books and but don't ask us to give us more cars and some ask us to give that type of certificate for 5 cars and so on and so forth. That becomes a different matter. But on normal living, personal effects, there is no problem. So for everything, in essence, what I'm saying, get the right information. We are willing to help, particularly in sending good assistance.
Thank you very much. Like you know, those of you who are left here, you are the serious one, and this is really the important part of the meeting because we would leave here with what we might call a resolution of this meeting. So if that might come close to satisfying some of our dissatisfied people, that would be fine. But I would want everybody to really contribute to the part of the resolution. And this takes us to the next panelist, which is really the most serious thing before Dr. Anderson and Shamina comes to come up to close, coming to put some water to it. We'll call on Dr. to call the next panelist.
I think I was doing very comfortable answer. I think I was going to get back up. So again, this is part of the program where we try to come up with possible solutions or suggestions that we can have as a way to go forward. And I must say that it wasn't by accident that we started from the historical to the
Is Oracle paying for this? Why do I see that Oracle logo?
Come on.
Excellency Mrs. Beth, good evening, His Royal Highness Sonoma. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and our children who have been so patient. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to address this crowd today. It was a very difficult thing for me to do to put solutions or resolutions towards the Northwest-Southwest issues without getting to, a little political at one point or the other. I know my husband told me, don't make it a political issue. It can't be, because this is just non-political. It's Northwest-Southwest. Yes, that is true. It's Northwest-Southwest, and it's a very cultural issue, very ethnic. We are two ethnic groups, very different from each other. The topography is very different also, and the people are very different in their ways and the culture that they grew up with. And a lot of times, coming from the social work perspective, we are very uncomfortable in addressing people who are not from our own group. And in this case, I am from the Southwest Province, but I grew up having best friends who are from the Northwest Province. Tonanyangwe and I grew up together. We were almost next door neighbors in Yaoundé, and we felt very comfortable addressing these issues as we were growing up because they were very clear for us to see. So it really amazes me when I see Northwest and Southwest people who say that there is really no Northwest-Southwest problem. Yes, it's true, we might have grown to the point where we can overcome whatever impediments that might come our way from those problems, because, but it's a little premature to say no, there are no problems, but maybe we have overcome those barriers and blocks in the way. In order to address this, I should have done more work than I did, but because of other constraints and obligations, I wasn't able to put in as much work into this as I would have liked to. I used two resources in order to come up with these resolutions. There is one of them which is a memorandum presented to the French chiefs, political leaders, and the people of the former West Cameroon, and that was by a committee of Anglophone elites resident in the Littoral province. This paper was done on February 11th, 1991. I also used, it is a social science research that was done by a researcher by the name Kim. Dr. Kim wrote a paper that addressed political, social pluralism in the United States. And she is actually Asian American born, and there are very many similarities that pertain to the Northwest-Southwest issue that we see in Cameroon, because the Northwest-Southwest people are a minority in Cameroon. And so this just fitted what I was looking at so much, and I decided to use that also to address the crowd here tonight. There is a need for collective leadership of people that dictate unity between Southwest and Northwesterners. Our political leaders should promote unity between us instead of divisiveness. A lot of times our political leaders use the concept of, oh, I'm from Northwest and Northwesterners should vote me in power, or I'm from Southwest, so you have to vote me to their own gain and their own end. this has also gone to create the rift between Northwesterners and Southwesterners. We cannot talk about the problem without addressing the political issue. And also, a lot of times, that political issue goes towards, say, the political party in power. In this case, it's CPDM. It used to be CNU before CPDM. And we cannot run away from that. But I see here that there is a need for our political leaders to address our people as a whole, the Northwest, Southwest concerns as a whole, in order for us to get anywhere. We cannot be divided or be divided within ourselves if we have to get anywhere as a group of people. In this, I am saying that we have to learn from our past mistakes. We have to stop dividing ourselves and talk in one voice. We have to not sell each other to the non-focus group. In this case, when I'm talking about the non-focus group, I'm talking about the non-Northwest, Southwest individual. We also need to revisit the constitutional security of our people. And this is one of the suggestions that I have to make as a proposal for us to come to a resolution in that problem. I also see that the Northwest and Southwest problem, I'm just a little, okay. If an individual is made a leader, he or she should command the loyalty of everyone. People should not think about backstabbing that person and saying that, oh, I don't like this person because the person is from Northwest, or because a lot of times people do vote, or people vote people based on where they are from and all of that. But there is definitely, it is assumed that if there is a Northwesterner in power, then the Northwesterner would look for the good of the Northwest people and maybe look for the good of the Southwest people before looking for the non-focus group, for the interest of the non-focus group. That is a possibility. But we cannot say that a person's ethnicity or background or where the person is from does not affect what they do when they are in political positions. If we run away from that, then we are actually defeated even before we start. That's one of the resolutions that I see. And in saying this, that is not to say that we will be disloyal to our country, Cameroon. That is not going to be disloyalty. It would just be looking out for the interest of our own people. And in looking out for the interest of our own people, we will develop our areas and in the same way developing Cameroon. Because Northwest and Southwest is part of Cameroon. So that is part of development also. I'll give you an example. In my new community, we have a Mecca Washington group, and we also have, say, like each clan, like the Bisongaban people have their meeting, the Ejagan people have their meeting, the people from Okoyong, they have their own meeting also. And guess what? The rulers or the people, the Mecca representatives don't see that as a threat. They encourage that because if each village is strong, then Manu is strong. And that's the way we should look at this. The Northwest-Southwest problem should actually be there to make us strong. I mean, we should work towards resolving this problem so we can be stronger. But if we refuse, first of all, if we are denying that there is a problem, then we will not be able to resolve it. The next thing I want to address is that our leaders should lead us towards transforming our cultural differences to a major political asset. For it is evident that neither Northwest nor Southwest can survive the aggression and oppression of the non-focus group without each other. It's almost impossible. We have to the melting pot per se, where okay, we are not looking at the melting pot per se. Like in the United States, there is the melting pot concept where everybody fits. Okay, there's generally the Eurocentric viewpoint where all minorities were treated. Okay, if you don't fit whatever the Eurocentric model has as what is acceptable for the community, then you're a deviant. You actually need to be maybe put in the hospital, or you just stand no chance in the community. And so too it is in our Northwest, Southwest, and Cameroon issue. The non-focus group has always ruled us. They have always been President Amajo Ahijo was from the Northern Province, and President Biya happens to be from the Southern Province or Central Province, Central or South. Okay, but in our sociocultural ways, the Anglophones, I mean the non-focus group has always seen the Northwest and Southwesterner as, okay, they don't have any problem, even though we know we have a problem. Some of us might say, oh no, we don't have a problem because we want to buy into that group that says there is no problem, and we don't want to offend each other and say, yes, I agree and I see with you that we have a problem. So we buy into what the majority group is saying, that there is no problem. But that is what is called in the Western culture brainwashing. There is a little bit of brainwashing that I see going on here. But in order for us to address the issues, we have to first of all agree that there is a problem. We don't have to look at it in a negative light. We have to look at it as things that happened in the past and things that are happening now. I don't feel comfortable in a culture which is not mine. I'm a little apprehensive when I see someone who is a little different than me, and I'm not going to approach this person. But it's only by approaching that person and dialoguing and communicating with them and learning about their culture and being comfortable about your own culture and your own ethnicity and knowing who you are, that you are going to be able to actually interact with the person without bias or prejudice. So that's where I see that we really need to go with this problem. I also see that we need to address this issue at an educational level, and that's what the professor who wrote the paper about the pluralistic perspective suggested. She suggested that the curriculum in schools need to reflect that pluralistic perspective instead of reflecting always the melting pot theory. In Cameroon, we need to develop a curriculum where I don't want to call it Anglophone issue because it's not the Anglophone issue, it's the Northwest cultural issue and the Southwest cultural issue needs to be addressed at academic levels so that everybody is actually, I know we have Cameroon history where SAT test for primary school, but that is actually what is called the melting pot theory that is being taught to us in schools today. We need to go past that and actually look at those issues that affect us as a culturally diverse group. And once we do that and we are able to come up with points that can help us through to resolve these issues, we might really not be going anywhere. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. And the really call on this is way to come and talk and really take points or questions and after that.
Excellency the Ambassadors, Cameroon, His Royal Highness Munayangwe, my brothers and sisters. I know some of you are much younger, so my children. I'm actually going to you here this evening. Although I definitely, if I had a chance, I would protest against the question I'm going to be put last, because the hall is virtually empty. But it doesn't matter. Those who are here will take the message. The topic which I was called, and I'm glad to be on the blueprint side, is the Northwest Southwest divide. To me, it's a constitutional problem. Does it really exist? Yes. But no. So it depends on what you are looking for. I would say yes, because since Lord Lugard's constitution in Nigeria, whereby he created Nigeria into regions, and Cameroon was with the colony of Lagos, we've always had a grassland which is called Bamenda province, and we also had a forest land which was called the Southern province. And those two provinces had representation in Lagos. The Southern province was represented by Dr. Edeli, and the Northern province by Estimona. So since then, that appellation of Bamenda province and the Southern province existed. From Lord Lugard, it also went down to Governor Macpherson in 1954, when he created the regions, and Southern Cameroon was now coming as its own separate region and its own territory. Have divisions made so that they can have their own separate assembly and representation. We always had Bamenda province, and we always had Southern province. So I'm talking now from a legal perspective. Everybody here has said either political, cultural, or some other relationship. But we must fit the structure of the state into its legal perspective to understand it better, because that's where the norm creation is. So we had North Bamenda province, South Korea. Thereafter, how did representation come? Well, I said Mr. Muna was for North, and Dr. Edeli was for South. Every time the assembly met in Lagos, they went there. Until when they moved out to say, no, we no longer want to be part of Nigeria. We can be our own separate situation. That was 1954. But they didn't stop that creation. What they did was go to the north, add divisions. Kambe, Banso, Wum, and Bamenda. Go down south, add Kumba, Manfi, Victoria. So, but the provinces still stayed there. But in 1961, when we joined our brothers, Aijo thought that they can change that into a federal system, which he didn't understand what federalism was. So they tried to remove the appellations of North and South. When he went on with federalism and got stuck, he was the first to complain that posts are being multiplied and finances cannot go. So in 1972, he brought down the federalism and went back to the same appellation, Northwest, Southwest, and created the rest of all the provinces to attach to that. So we had 7. Well, when he had demised and left, President Bia came over, added 3 others. So we now have 10. So you will ask me whether or not it's a divide. I'll say yes, territorial. The law recognizes it. The Constitution, Lord Lugard's Constitution recognized it. Mr. Macpherson's Constitution recognized it. A President Alio's Constitution 1961 might have ignored it. But he brought it right back himself in 1972. And he's still there. So territorially, yes, there's a divide. What are we talking about? Okay, we move further. If we accept that there is a divide and it's a constitutional issue, what are we looking for? Because in every constitution, it sets out the principles as guidelines from which we move to govern our people, to make them feel happy, to make the law work, and to create courts so that the courts can work with it, and the courts can interpret the law for us, and they can decide our disputes, which is a very important aspect of the court system. There are controversies either between provinces or between local council groups or even individuals. Those controversies must be settled. The courts take responsibility. And this divide too was reflected in the court system. When Lord Descartes created those North and South, he didn't leave out the courts. There was a High Court in Bamenda and a High Court in Buea. So that even though we're still part of Lagos, the Supreme Court and Court of Appeal would only go to Lagos. But when they gave our own region in 1954, the Court of Appeal moved to Buea. And when we got independence in 1961, the Court of Buea also increased to the Supreme Court. It was the existence of two Supreme Courts, one in Buea, one in Yaoundé. Those were the things that created a problem for him. And he said, the one in Buea is administering English law, he can't control that. So he went back to the original. He said, look, let me go to a unitary state. And the unitary state, understandably so, is the French system, and that's the easy way to assimilate and control it, because he can appoint his magistrates, he can appoint his governors, he can appoint his prefects, and he tells them what to do. And if you don't conform, he can dismiss you. Nobody will ask him a question. But whereas the English system, you couldn't appoint a judge and pick him up the next day. It's not possible. Those are the difficulties in the country, in the cultural system that rests in the two. So it wasn't that Northwest could not have its legal system with a Southwest system. They had a common system. And many of the magistrates from the Northwest worked in the Southwest. And those in the Southwest worked in the Northwest. I worked in Bamenda, created many courts in Bamenda. Even when we court, I opened it up. And so on. So we did all these things, and they went well. So, constitutionally, coming back to what we're talking about, assuming there is a controversy, how would the court look at it? And what type of material comes before the court for decision? Well, in every country, an issue of discrimination or race or prejudices that will affect the population or cause riots or problems, the courts take that another option. So the classification will first, they will suspect that government wants to do this for a disadvantage, and then strike it down. Like if you ask me what type of things, legislation do you think is so suspect in Cameroon that the courts would strike it down when the cases come before them, which government has done? Among the areas is employment. Among the areas is dismissal of those who they have employed, because they know that is where the family life is. You've grown up, that's what Honorable Ambassador is saying. No sooner than anything, they make a petition statement about him and his family. And they will hold his pension. You cripple the whole family. That's what he depended on. He spent all his time as an ambassador. He should not get his pension and so on. So when he goes to the court, and this one has to go to the Supreme Court, that the Supreme Court will say, no, produce us sufficient evidence to make it clear and convincing that the allegations against him are true. And give them strike it down and restore his pension. just that way. Classification according to law will put them in a legal perspective. We want to know that everybody who has a problem with his brother or sister or his neighbor can have his affair decided. So we talk about equality. No person, minister or head of state who has a problem with his neighbor should claim that, no, I can't go to court because I'm different. So the court's guidelines set a certain position whereby every citizen can freely come to court and can have his matter decided. And when you come, nobody should have an extra advantage over you because of his position, ethnic group, upbringing, or special relationship. That equality ought not hold to have decency. Therefore, justice must be seen to be done in the open. Because what happens behind, nobody sees it. And it's people who will say, yes, this is true justice, depending on how to follow the system works. That is one point. Another point is due process. What does due process mean? The procedure for which we are going to evince our problem against X or Y, it should not be different when it is A or B. It is with the same process. If you are dismissed from your job without any reason, I want to take you to the Supreme Court to file an action that you sack me without this, so that I can get back my pension and claim all the things. It should be the same procedure applicable to everybody. These two things make the Constitution important. Because the Constitution will give different aspects of institutions of government to act in the right attitude in creating situations that are equal for everybody. For instance, the Constitution alone will tell you how many people will be in Parliament and how their laws can work and what they can do. The Constitution alone can set out to say who are to be magistrates or not, and how to elect their president, and what his powers are, what appointments he can make, how he can be removed for certain duties where he fails to do that. It's the Constitution alone that tells that. So the Constitution is a major document in whatever reforms you want to make because it dictates the face and governs everybody's conduct. Certain constitutions may be rigid, others are very flexible. The rigidity or flexibility of any constitution differ from state to state. In America here, we may have certain part of the constitution called necessary and proper clause. Because when things are so tight, you cannot see to go back to the necessary and proper clause to make sure the constitution moves ahead. But in our own constitution, we don't have things like that. So how do they move? I tell you a typical case. A typical case that happened in 1961 was here when he went to the Constitutional Court. It was a Congolese who was president. No. A Lebanese who was resident in Yaoundé, and he had business in Congo and the same business in Yaoundé. No, the business was in Gabon. So we have this UDIAC laws which are the same. That is to say, if you pay taxes in Yaoundé for a particular community that is shipped from Yaoundé to Gabon again, in Gabon you won't pay taxes because they are in the UDIAC customs. Yes. So this Libani had paid taxes for the commodity in Gabon, and the goods came to Yaoundé, and they taxed him, and he went to court, and he wanted to show that, look, this UDIAC custom thing, so he has to benefit. The constitutionality of that decision was what he faced. Well, I regret to say that the Supreme Court shied away from his decision. And they said that Section 10 of the Constitution, you couldn't challenge it because the court's power have been taken to meditate or take decisions on whether an act in the Constitution can be challenged by an individual. So they refused to hear the case. That backfired because it shows that if you have a constitutional issue just forget about it. You cannot go anywhere. But that doesn't mean that the law will not look a way to have controversies settled between people. The law must always settle those controversies. In that case, although they refused it, the judges there were shy. But if you went today, I'm sure you will find some serious judges who can give an answer to that type of situation. I told you that among the things which they do is the quality of protection of the law. We have also seen that amongst the things they bring here amongst us is that we have individual problems between one and another, one-to-one in Northwest and Southwest. We also seek to look for whether there are collective problems between Northwest versus Southwest. As far as the second aspect goes, I think there are none. Because if Northwest and Southwest had a collective problem indeed, and people have been trying to make that larger so that they fight it out, by now they would have taken arms and fought. And I'm sure that the non-focus group will be very happy to see that happen, because it makes your job easy. Fortunately, the Northwest-Southwest problem has not gone to that magnitude whereby they can take arms and ignore it. They ignore it. They don't take arms at all. But do they have simple man-to-man, woman-to-woman problems? Yes. But this is not the one that the Constitution will take to talk about suspected classification, so that we can look a rational relationship compelling government to take action. But we can have other things whereby the government can even use one of its own officers to show an involvement and practice discrimination against an individual or a group. But it cannot be so high that you can show a rational relationship compelling government interest. What I'm trying to say is that if the government chooses to molest a group in Northwest or Southwest, they can send a prefect to pick up a few people. They can tell the governor to go there and cane a few people. That's government involvement. But you see, government will not send an army to a village to start killing everybody. Because if they did that, we will cry discrimination. And we will cry other things, because that's genocide. But they don't do that. They are very clever the way they do it. They pick up the ringleaders and know how to deal with them. They pick up a few people and they know how to deal with them. That's not the type of thing we're talking about in Northwest South. Especially if the manipulation is by a third person, distantly related to the cultures we are talking about. Going back to history again, I know that in 1959 elections in Southern Cameroon, that was the greatest open election I've seen. That's the one Endeli was defeated by Poncha, and Poncha took over power. Now, Endeli had Campbell, Basso, and Boom as strongholds. They voted for him. That was Northwest. Poncha came down, Mamfi, Kumba. They voted for him. That was a competitive election. But in counting of our own votes, Endeli lost by Poncha. Would you say that there was a divide? Because politics is all manipulation. And the essence is to get the people and win when it counts. So while if we are talking about the divide, we should try to distinguish between important matters of a certain magnitude to show some concern than trivialities. I'm talking about trivialities. I want to tell you something. When in 1995 we came back from the United Nations, we were going home, and we decided to visit the important institutions in southern Cameroon to tell them what happened. So we visited Suela, which is 18, no, who was a lawyer. He took up the document in 1991 whereby Cameroon Reform Movement has listed all the grievances between Northwest and Southwest. And he was talking to a young man and asked, what type of work were you doing recording trivialities or differences? You quarrel with your wife, it becomes a public show to write it in the paper. If you disagree with your brother, for one other thing, it must be written on the paper. You know what mentality it is when you write anything down. You come back to it, it's there. So we don't do things like that because that's the wrong attitude to life. For a small disagreement that somebody should not marry my daughter, you put it down as a difference north or south. That's a private issue. You don't have to go into that type of line. So I ask now, why the issue of Southwest, Northwest dichotomy? I will give you 3 wise sayings from which you can judge the stand. The first is that an old scar wounded dies hard. So you quarrel with your brother and write a letter to him, telling him all that he has done. You know, even when you compromise, every day you read that letter, you think about that evil. You are not happy about it. The second is that unity is strength, and it stands tall. If we can stay together, that's a lot. I don't need to explain that. And the third is that divided we fall and we scatter. So what I'm trying to say here is that in politics, once the manipulator is in control, he knows that you are becoming strong. He must divide you and make sure you scatter. And when you scatter, he's stabbing each time. Have that small beginnings and problems. That is the way things are going. It's not even our fault. So if you ask me, is there any Southwest, Northwest divide? I said yes. Territorially, the Constitution says so. But in problem and controversy, there is nothing to talk about because they are ordinary human problems. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to tell you more than what I have said, but I will thank the organizers of the meeting. I will say that the solution is not to talk about. The solution between Northwest and Southwest is action. If before you joined La Republique you had no problems, you've never manifested any problems, the answer is retreat and go back to your original position.